This pumpkin pie is so simple anyone can make it, and it tastes incredible. And what I've done, unlike many of the celebrity chef recipes out there, I have kept the ingredients down to a bare minimum, and it tastes just like a traditional pumpkin pie. The recipe cards are at the end, but for now, what we need is, well, some pumpkin, ready rolled pastry, and for spices, I'm using cinnamon and nutmeg, a bit of salt, caster sugar, milk, butter, eggs, and some icing sugar there on the bottom left, and that is for dusting at the end with a sprinkle of cinnamon. Here we go then. First up then, we need to get the pumpkin boiling so we can make a pumpkin puree. You could make this even simpler if you bought a can of pumpkin puree, but I had so many gallo deseeded pumpkins on my allotment, I wanted to use them up. We're just going to boil the pumpkin slices till they're nice and soft and tender, around about 15 minutes or so. I'm using a 22cm loose bottom tart tin. What's that, 8 to 9 inches I suppose. And I'm spraying it with a release spray. You could butter it, but with all those fine little flutes around the outside, the spray's a lot easier. And like I said, I'm using ready rolled pastry. You can get sweet pastries, but it doesn't really matter. This is a savoury version. Tuck it into all the sides, all the corners, get it folded in there. Patch up any little bits on the side, make sure it's all pressed in fully. Trim off the worst of the excess from the edges and dock the bottom, and that just means poke it all over with the fork so the steam can escape and the pastry doesn't rise. Scrunch up a piece of parchment paper and put it on top of the pastry. I've stopped using greaseproof paper. They've got different uses. Parchment paper can do everything. Greaseproof paper can't, so I don't use greaseproof anymore. I've made too many mistakes. Pour in the baking beans of your choice. I'm using these clay pellet ones. They're pretty good. Hold the heat very well. You can actually use dried beans for this if you've got enough. Pop it in the oven. 180 Celsius for 15 minutes. Meanwhile, keep checking the pumpkin, gradually getting softer. When the pastry's had about 15 minutes in the oven, take it out and get rid of the baking beans. And what we're going to do now, we're going to brown up the pastry a little bit. The trouble with these loose bottom baking tins is, I find them so awkward to handle. That's why I've got my burger flipper at the side there. Back in the oven for another 10 minutes at 180 again. The pumpkin's nice and soft now, and that was 1/4 hour. Strain the water off through a colander and then pop the pumpkin pieces back into the pan. This sort of steam dries them a little bit. And now we need to make the puree. You can either put it in a food processor, but I wanted to push it through a sieve. It didn't take too long, about 5 minutes. And there it is. Set it to one side. On to the rest of the ingredients now, and first up is 25 grams of butter, and we want this to be melted. So I just popped it in the hot oven with the pastry. 140 grams of caster sugar. Pretty close. Half a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of nutmeg. And 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And mix the dry ingredients together. 2 eggs. And as always, I crack them into a separate bowl first, just in case I get a bad one. Not had one for a few years actually, and that was from one of these honesty boxes at the side of the road, so probably the egg had been sat in the farmer's barn for a few weeks. Beat the eggs together. Add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, so that's in with the eggs. £175ml of milk, and in with the melted butter, and mix all this together. When it is homogeneous or well and truly incorporated, it's time to add the pumpkin puree. And once again, get this mixed in. The pastry case has had its 10 minutes with no baking beans in, so I'm just trimming off the excess from the sides. If you do this to start off with, the pastry case will shrink inside the tin. Allow the pastry to cool down a bit and pour in the pumpkin mix. And I'll tell you, this was fun juggling this into the oven. I think I may have put a little bit too much in there. Still hot, so I had to use oven gloves. Oh my word. Oh, I got there eventually. So it's in the oven at 180 Celsius for 10 minutes and then turn the heat down to 160 for another 40 odd minutes. And take it out when the top has just set and has got a little bit of that jiggle wiggle factor. As the pie is cooling down, you can make up your icing sugar cinnamon mix. What are we going to call this? Cinnamon sugar, I suppose. Just a tablespoon of icing sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon powder, and mix them together. When the pie is totally cold, remove it from the tin. Good tip here, if you've got a loose bottom tin, put a jam jar on your bench and the base will just stay where it is, the outsides will fall off. And then if you've used enough release agent, enough spray, enough butter, the pie will come off the bottom. Yes, it did. Pop some of the cinnamon sugar into a little sieve and then sprinkle over the top. Tappity, tappity, tappity. As much or as little as you like. Right then, I guess I better try this bad boy. Let's turn it around that way. A bit over this side's a little bit broken. Right then, no fancy plate for me. Oh, look at that, very moist. That is so sweet. Nice one. Bit of a double diggy thumbs up again. Right, that's enough for me. That'll send my sugar levels rocketing. Look after yourselves, guys. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next video.